Hello everyone and welcome to another WebDev lesson. Today we're going to be talking more about HTML elements, which are actually HTML tags. You're going to hear us use those two words interchangeably, they mean the same thing. So we're going to be getting into more advanced tags such as the P tag, maybe some break tags, maybe more headers. We're going to talk more about what headers are and semantics and all that stuff. So before you watch this video, you should already be familiar with the HTML skeleton, which we talked about in the previous video. If you aren't familiar with the HTML skeleton, go ahead and watch the video before this and you'll get yourself and your mind accustomed to working with a little bit of HTML. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so what we have here is our file that we created in the last lesson. So if you don't have this file on your desktop, go back, watch the lesson, follow along, and create this file and the 3 files that are inside of it. So what we're going to do is we are actually going to open up our editor, so Sublime. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open Sublime here. So what this did is open these up automatically. If yours didn't do that, you can maybe say open recent, or you can go to open and click some of these and open all 3 of them. But honestly, you're not going to need these 2 for this particular lesson. These you would have if you were setting up any standard website. For this lesson, all we're doing is HTML. That's what this WebDev Lessons episode is all about, HTML. That's what this whole class is about. If you'd like to know how to use CSS and JavaScript, go ahead and watch our CSS and JavaScript videos for that content. Okay, so we're going to get into a few things today. One of the most important things I do want to cover is, let me open this and new Finder window. And we're going to hop on over. I have a lot of stuff. Here we go. All right. So this is our, where is it here? So go ahead and open up your file, kind of what I'm doing now. And I'm just going to look for this exercise 1. And I know eventually I'll find it. There it is right in front of my face. Okay. So we've got that open. Watch what happens if I double click this index.html. It opens up a blank web page, which is pretty cool actually if you think about it, because we actually have a web page here that we can now add content to, which is really awesome. So that's what we're going to do today. When you first see a website, the first thing you're usually going to see is some text that tells you what the site is all about. So in this case, let me actually go to WebDev Lessons and just show you what I've done with my particular site at this point in time. When you're watching this video, this is what my site looks like right now. I have a big WebDev Lessons letting you know exactly where you are right now. Now, let's actually take a look under the hood. So we're going to right click and we're going to click Inspect. Again, if you're on a Mac, you can do Command-Option-J and that will open up the same thing. So we're going to go ahead and hit Inspect. And what we've got here is we have a couple things. And this might look confusing. Don't get confused. We're going to go over everything. The most important thing here is this H1. That's what we're about to talk about right now. Don't worry about what it looks like over here. You know, you see those blue, green, orange. Don't worry about those. Just worry about what this code looks like and what it spits out here, which is really cool, okay? That's what we're going to talk about right now, and that's what we're going to build. So for our site, let's see if we can implement something that looks a lot like that. So let's try to, let's pick a topic for our site. So I'm assuming you have a topic for your site. Maybe you don't. Maybe let's just make this puppies, or let's first build an H1. I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that. Build a header tag, and then we're going to say puppies are, and maybe we'll have like a dot in between or an asterisk, are us. Puppies are us. I don't know. Maybe we're a shelter and we have puppies. And so now let's refresh our page and see what we get after we save. Let's save. And there we are. There's our header tag. There's our header tag at work. And if we right click and hit inspect, we can see inside of body, here is our header tag, which is great. There we go. So that looks great and all, but that doesn't quite look like that. What's going on here? Well, there are things called styling, which we are going to get into later. There is a thing that you should know about programming. Things become what's called deprecated, and that means that they're no longer used. So they are supported, but they are no longer used. We're about to use a tag that is unsupported for very good reasons, but will give us what we need at this point in time. We're going to use the center tag. And this center tag centers our content for us on the page, so that anything in between these center tags is centered. Sorry. And there you go. We've now centered our text, which is great. We wanted it centered. So for reasons we'll get into later, we no longer use these. And like I said, we'll talk about why. But just know that it's not good practice to use these. You'll learn the right way to do it later. All right, so now what we're going to do is we are going to add an H2. And what we want to do is describe what our website's main purpose is. If you look back at my site here, this kind of describes what my site is all about, right? Lessons in website development. WebDev Lessons is our main title, and Lessons in Website Development is what my site is about. So what we're going to do is we are going to describe what this site is all about. We're going to say, your friendly neighborhood pet shelter. And I've refreshed the page, and that's what we get. So remember, save it, because if I change something here, it's not saved, right? So I save it, then I refresh. Now, you just saw something that probably did make a lot of sense. And let's go into that. Let me smash again. Smash, do some keyboard smashing. And refresh the page after, of course, I save it. See, my IDE that I usually use is called VS Code, and it usually auto saves for me. So I have to get used to hitting the save button with Sublime Text. So once I get the hang of that, there'll be no more going back. But here you go. Right. This probably doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, wait a second. We're learning about all these tags. We've talked about center, H1, H2, and now you're telling me if I just put text in here, it will show up the way I want it to? Are you kidding me? Well, half of my sarcastic statement is true. The other half is, the half that's right is, yes, you can put text in here and it will show up on the page. The half that wasn't true is that it won't show up the way you want it to. So we have this on one line, right? And let's say we have another line here. So let's go to the beginning and say line 1, so that we clearly know that these are on two different lines. And line 2, right? Another line. And now let's go in here and, after I save, refresh, and look what we've got. These are on the same line. That's not doing what I wanted it to do. Well, maybe I'll just try this again. What if I try, like, another line? Please work. I'm begging you. Let me save this. All right, and refresh. And yeah, no, it's not gonna work. So you can put text in here, and it will show up on the page, and it will coerce down to text that your browser engine will read and then translate into what it needs to display here. However, as you can see, you can't style it. You can't put it where you want it. It's going to become a huge nuisance to you that you'll work around and just finally give up trying. And that's a good thing, because nobody does that, and it's a bad idea. So what we're going to do is we are going to, from this point forward, put everything inside of tags. So we've talked about center and how it's deprecated, and you should never use it, but we'll tell you why later, so just use it for now. We've also touched briefly on H1 and H2. These are header tags, and the way they work is they work with a big word called semantics. And semantically, you are going to order your text in whichever order of importance they belong. So this is our main idea, the big idea of the site. This tells us immediately what the name of the site is, the most important content, the most important thing on the site is this, our H1, okay, the most important text. Here's our H2. It's slightly less important than H1, right? But it's more important than, say, an H3, which is more important than an H4. And as it turns out, this can go on and on and on. You'll probably never get past an H3. Personally, I've never used an H4. The text just gets smaller and smaller. And again, it's not about the text size, because notice, yes, this font is a bigger font than this. You can change all of that using CSS, and that's what you'll end up doing. If you were to guess at what these would be, what would you guess? Take some time, and what would you say these are? Okay, hopefully you have staked a guess or tried to guess as to which header those are. And interestingly enough, they are actually they are H3s. If I could ever find my code, here we are. These are actually, when you boil down to it, there's an H2, there's your H3. And notice, our H3 is a bigger font size than our H2. Well, that just means that this is less important than this. We want to welcome someone, and then we want to tell them what they're doing here. This is also an H2, so we would say that these two things are on relatively the same level of importance. So I hope that clears up a little bit of using these header tags and semantics and all that stuff. It's just kind of important to understand that it's not the font size that matters, because we can alter that later. And as I've shown here, I've altered the font size of these, right? This is an H2, and somehow the H2 is smaller than the H3. You can do that. That's all CSS, and we'll get into that in the CSS lessons. So don't think of this as, oh, I need a big font size. Let me use an H1. No. Use an H1 only if it's the biggest level of importance on the page, okay? So let me just demonstrate what each of these sizes looks like. Here we go. And if I saved, you'll see the changes live. And there we go. It all gets smaller and smaller and smaller, all the way down to your H6, which you can barely see. But there you go. Okay? There are headers at work in their default styling, which will change later. So, all that to say, use your headers to tell your browser the order of importance and what level of importance this text is at. Okay, nice work. We are at the end of our video, and we've talked about a lot of things in this video. Hopefully you got it all. If you have questions, as always, Slack chat or send me an email, go on the website and do all that stuff. So we've covered that already. You should be good on those things. Also, what you need to do now is you need to look under this video for a link. It's a button, and it's actually a link to the exercise for this video. You can complete the exercise right after this video, or you can just do most of it and then complete it maybe after watching the next video. Whatever you feel comfortable with doing. So, let's walk through just a little bit, real quick, less than 2 minutes, what the exercise is. So, the exercise is all discussed on the README in the GitHub repo. So if you look at the repo, you should go to the bottom and you'll see a README that tells you everything you need to do. What you need to do is you need to fork the repo, you need to clone the repo. Both of those you should have learned already by watching that video that I told you to watch at the beginning of last video, right? And after you've forked it and you've cloned it to your machine, what you're going to do is you're going to open it and you're going to create an HTML file. Inside of that HTML file, you're going to create the HTML skeleton, and we'll go from there. So if you have problems with any of those steps, go to the Slack chat, go to the Slack group, go to my email and let me know. Good luck. Hope to see you in the next video after you've completed that exercise linked below.